So I've cut out my seat, and one problem that you're probably going to run up against if you're making chairs is that you can end up with a width of board that isn't going to fit through your standard planer. So this one is about 13 inches wide. I have a 12-inch planer, so that won't work out, but that's okay because for most of my career I never even had the 12-inch planer, and everything I did I just flattened by hand. It's really not that hard. Once you get used to it, you can just do it in 10 or 15 minutes. It's not that big a deal. This one's going to have to come down quite a bit. So for this, I'm pretty happy that I still have my trusty old scrub plane. This thing really makes quick work out of thicknessing as well as taking off a bunch for flattening if you need. This one is not that out of flat already. I can tell that it's not going to need a ton of flattening. So most of the work is probably going to be done with this number 7 here. But just like you'd imagine, I'm going to need to make sure that both of these are tuned up pretty nicely. So my first job, because I haven't done this in a little while, is I got to take these out and I've got to inspect the blades and make sure I like how sharp they are, because that is everything when it comes to making this job go fast and be efficient doing it. So after I took these planes apart, it seemed pretty obvious that both of these blades could use a little bit of love. You can see here, hopefully, that there's a lot of flat on there, a lot more than I would like if I'm honing. The more flat area that you have on there, the harder it's going to be consistent in your honing because of the amount of surface contact you're making. My scrub plane as well, even though it still has some hollow grind left, there's plenty of material there that I don't want to have to work away with my stones, so I'm going to grind both of those blades right now. I'm going to start here with my scrub plane blade, and you'll notice it's quite thick. That's partially because it doesn't have a chip breaker, and you're going to do pretty aggressive work with it. This one has a radius, of course, and I reduced the radius it came with. I don't think you need that much of a radius. As a matter of fact, I think you could put a slight radius on a regular hand plane and just withdraw the chip breaker a bit and get a lot of the same effect. Hopefully it's a tool that has a pretty open throat, because you're going to take some pretty thick shavings doing this. I'm using a CBN wheel here, which is really rated more for high-speed steel, like super hard metals. But high carbon steel, I haven't found it to load the tool up at all. It may void your manufacturer warranty, but I found good luck with just my high carbon steel. Maybe it's because modern steels, as they're made, are generally pretty hard. You can see I'm getting a decent grind on it. I like it because you don't have to flatten this wheel, and it runs cool, and it also doesn't kick up that aluminum oxide dust that comes off of a standard grinding wheel. I do use standard grinding wheels though, and I'd like to true them up so they have a slight radius so I can always control exactly where they're cutting. But in this case, because it's nice and flat, I can actually feel the flatness on the edge of the blade as I'm working it side to side here, and that really gives me a nice consistent result using very, very light pressure here. Like my friend Greg Pennington says, you should have the pressure like you're trying to sharpen a feather. And this is about a 180 grit, which I find removes metal really nicely, but doesn't leave too harsh of a scratch pattern. And in a moment here, I'm going to show you that I like to put a little magnet underneath my tool rest, and that just helps grab those shavings out of the air exactly as they're made. It really keeps the dust down in the area. Now I've got my stones, and I'm going to start with my 4000 grit because I've got quite a good hollow grind on these tools, and I don't think I'm going to need to go much coarser than that. And if I did need to go much coarser than that, I probably would go back to the grinder because that is the fastest way to remove the metal. Now, if I was to push it straight across the stones like this, I don't have much length of bevel that I'm going to be on. It'd be very easy to accidentally push it on or off the bevel and get pretty poor results. So what I like to do is I slant it a little bit, about 45-degree angle, and that way now I've got a much longer distance that it's in the forward to back range that it's making contact. That is much more stable. My favorite way to do this is just to pull. If I'm really being super careful about this and I'm really concerned about it, I'm just going to pull, because I find that it's in that reverse motion sometimes, especially if you're new to sharpening. It's in that reversal motion that people tend to overcompensate and lift up ever so slightly. So if you're new to this, what you might probably want to do is just pull on it. And you can see that I've got this finger up front, and it is doing almost all the work for me. It's directly over the bevel, and it's pushing in. You don't want to make contact with the stone with your finger, but it's pushing down there, and then my hand back here, really just the little finger, is just picking it up a bit. And I'm just going to keep doing that as I come through here, trying to use the entire stone. That's important. That'll help keep your stone in shape. And then I'm going to see how I'm doing on my results. And the results will both show and you'll feel. You'll feel a little wire is turned all the way across the piece, and already I've got that. So in this instance, it's been a while since this has gotten any attention, so I am going to flatten the back a little bit. And on this, I am going to go 2 directions because I've got such great contact with the stone. I'm not too worried about it. And I use this almost like I'm trying to flatten the stone is the idea here. And you can see that black on the surface, well, that's the metal. That's metal coming off my blade. So we know we're sharpening if we see that black. And before I move on, I always like to let it dry out just a little bit on the surface here. In other words, I don't keep using the water because that's going to just show you fresh grit. And what I want is the grit that's already been broken off of the surface to break down. That gives me what I call slurry. And that slurry is going to get finer and finer as I go through the sharpening process. So this really gives me sort of an in-between grit before I move on too far. So now I've got that. And I've got the front here. I'm going to maybe take another pass or 2 on the front before I move on. Because what I'm trying to do is weaken that point of contact that that little wire edge has with the actual edge. I don't want it to tear off. I want to diminish it until that wire edge just falls off. So now, before I move on to the next stone, while I've got it here, I'm going to go ahead and do my scrub plane. Now with this one, it's a little different because I have to roll it as I go. So while I'm working this, I'm going to have to roll it a little bit. It'd be easier if I was right-handed, but you can see here, I'm going to have to roll it just a hair. So I sort of start on one edge with my finger over here, and I'm going to end by pushing with the other finger so that the contact is there. So this is what that looks like. So that way, I'm making my way across the entire edge, even though it's curved. And again, the pressure right here is all on that finger and this finger up front. Those are doing all the work. I just have a tiny little bit of support at the back here, and I'm keeping it at that 45 degrees. So now I'm going to take a look at it, see how I'm doing. So I'm missing this corner here, very easy to do, but I've got a wire burr that's everywhere else. So I'm going to switch my positions now, and I am going to come back this way. Because what I find is that whichever part of the tool is lagging in the back there is the part that's easier to apply pressure. It's tougher to apply pressure on the front portion of any blade. It's easier on this portion. So you'll see what I mean in a moment here. Hopefully that will get that. And indeed, it brought it right over to that corner. So now I've gotten both. That's real important. I also do this with my skews when I'm sharpening my skews because they have a little curve too. I just bring it this way and then bring it that way, and that tends to take care of the situation. I'm going to add some water here, and I'm going to take that burr on the back down a little bit while also flattening the back and getting my stone nice and even. Okay, and again, before I move on, I'll take another couple passes one way and then the other. Okay. And now we're ready to move on. So now I'm going to flip this over and go to my finer stone. This is my 8000 grit, and I'm going to go through the same process here. So I'll start out on the back here. The reason I like to start out on the back is because it pulls up a little slurry just to begin with. It breaks free some of those particles on the surface. This is a very fine stone, and if I don't do this, I find I get a lot of suction happening when I try and do this bevel. So I don't want that straight off the bat. So I'm going to just start out with that, and now I'll pull it back here and pull this across here. Luckily, we're not sharpening a lot of metal here. We're sharpening just the very edge of that hollow grind, and by doing that and making the hollow grind nice and deep, it doesn't take that much to affect this edge. It really doesn't. You can really polish it up pretty quickly, and hopefully you'll see that here. So you see I've got a nice polish there. I'm going to check the back, go back to the back a little bit, and you see again I'm letting it dry out on the surface, and by letting it dry out on the surface I get a nice slurry, and it's that slurry that's going to become my polish. And that's how I'm going to get my bright mirror polish on the back here. And then I'll do a little bit more on the front here, and now this blade is ready to get back to work. Now I'll do the same here. I'll throw a little bit more water on there because I do want a little fresh grit exposed. You can see what happens. There it is. That's that fresh grit when you see through the slurry. And now I'm going to go back and do the back of this one. And then, again, just like before, I can push it two ways, this way and this way. But you'll notice I'm always trailing away from the edge. I'm not snow plowing into that edge. I find that's really easy to dig into your stones, especially if you're new to sharpening. You know, I can see a lot of very experienced sharpeners say you should always go both directions to save your motion, and they're probably right. But if you're new to this, I highly recommend just starting going one direction. The back is probably a little safer, but take it slow, because one wrong move, if I was to take this and pick it up just a little bit and drag it across, it's going to put a little micro bevel on there. And then when I'm sharpening, I'm not actually touching the edge. And if you're not contacting the edge, then you're not actually achieving anything. So get this finished off. So I'm just about ready to start flattening the seat, and I wanted to show you this little exercise that I showed folks to try and encourage you to think about the way that you use a hand plane, because there's really only one way to use it, and that is to start with the pressure all on the front hand here, and then as you go across, you need to transfer that pressure to the back hand here, so that the tool doesn't dip out on either side. So I choose to use a really small piece of wood here, the end grain of this, and I put a little wax on it to make it run smoother. And then I withdraw the blade and just practice that a few times, and you'll find that it's much more difficult than you might think. And the nice thing about it, though, is it really gives you an idea of how distinct that transfer of pressure needs to be. So in the beginning, you really do have all your pressure on this hand in the front, and in the end, all the pressure back here. I think that's really helpful to think about and to get used to, because later on, especially when we start flattening edges and jointing them so that we can glue up a board, that's really essential. But it really comes in handy when you're trying to work on a board like this, so that you're not just like following the crown that's in a board if it does have one. You're actually creating a flat and then cutting it off. So I'm going to grab this board over here now, and I'm going to chuck it right into here. And first I want to look at it and see what I've got.